I don't know how many of you remember Mr. Dapperton. He is an anarcho-communist YouTuber. I don't know if he changed his ideology or not, but I know he dropped off the radar for a while. And now he's back and came out with a very interesting video that got a lot of people on Twitter taking sides. And the video shows the amazing atheist before and after.
The MPAA is a censorship organization. It is not, it's not framed that way. It's framed as like, oh, this is to help parents make, good decisions for what kind of movies their kids can watch. That's bullshit. It is a censorship organization. And they get to fucking decide, to some extent, what films are available for your fucking consumption. Controlling the fucking art that we're allowed to consume, that we're allowed to see, because they know better than we do. Fuck that. It's bullshit. Fuck censorship.
I think that what needs to happen is this. There needs to be a government administration that is made up entirely of scientists who are appointed to their position based on the merits of their scientific achievements and not based on their politics. The fact-check administration, okay? The FCA. The FCA should have the power to determine if any given claim is incontrovertibly false and if it is socially deleterious. If they find that a claim is both incontrovertibly false and socially deleterious, then they should be empowered to stop its spread by any reasonable means.
Okay, YouTube, Jesus Freak with you once again. I'm going to upload TJ's video. You can watch it immediately after my commentary. He's been suspended from YouTube again, second time within 2 days. Terms of service violation. I hope he gets to work this out with YouTube and come to some type of agreement. Free speech on YouTube isn't really free speech. We're on YouTube's yard, and we must abide by their rules. Now, I'm not here to comment as to whether TJ's right, wrong, indifferent, or YouTube is. I'm really here to talk about the flagging, because those are the...
I used to watch TJ. Probably one of the first YouTubers that I actually watched that spoke about politics. And I remember watching him when he was having a spat with another YouTuber by the name of Jesus Freak.
Okay, YouTube, Jesus Freak with you once again. I'm going to upload TJ's video and you can watch it immediately after my commentary. He's been suspended from YouTube again, second time within 2 days. Terms of service violation. I hope he gets to work this out with YouTube and they come to some type of agreement.
And I'm thinking like, man, if the Amazing Atheist started his channel today, that would not have been possible. I mean, back then, it's probably that YouTube would have had terms of service preventing people from speaking against the establishment, which was very Christian, very right-wing. I mean, the right-wingers were pushing the cancel culture back then. We called them piety warriors. And the terms of service right now prevents people from doing harassment to other YouTubers. So I don't know if what Amazing Atheist versus Jesus Freak constitutes harassment or not, but definitely a lot of people are afraid on making video responses because of that, at least from my social circle. But believe it or not, this is not a new conversation, whether an institution should censor people. I think we should call it the Ministry of Truth. Sounds a lot more better. I mean, it's in the name. It's the truth, right? They're not going to spread lies. And this conversation actually happened in the medieval era with the apparition of the printing press. What do you mean, like, translate the Bible? What do you mean allow the peasantry, the fools, to read the Bible? They're not going to understand it. They're not going to get... How can you look at the peasantry and believe that they're going to understand the slogans that they're chanting? Of course not. The peasantry is dumb, idiotic, they're the masses, and they need to be looked after by their betters. The nobles, the clergy. They're the only ones capable of telling the peasantry the truth. As a matter of fact, I don't even know why we have voting anymore. Like, why even have a democracy? Because clearly there wouldn't be two sides of the same issue, right? It would be the correct side and it would be the misinformation. So why not just put scientists to rule the country? It's kind of hilarious because the best explanation on why this would be a bad idea is actually provided by the author who wrote the famous book Starship Troopers. And he says that the idea of allowing the intelligent elites to run things and you'll have a utopia fell flat because in the pursuit of science, despite its social benefits, is itself not a social virtue. Its practitioners can be men so self-centered as to be lacking in social responsibility. And we got to see this, you know, back in time when scientists thought, hey, you know, like if you make sure that the cows have sex the right way, like we're going to get a better cow, one with less illnesses, like one that's more muscular, one that's better for meat consumption. What if we applied the same concept but to humans? And then we can have like the Ubermensch, and I don't think I need to explain why that ended poorly. But hey, you know, it's science. I mean, it's not misinformation. I guess like anyone that disagreed with it would be like, hey, you just want people to die. You just want people to be sick. So that's a thing, I suppose. But what's also interesting is that the majority of people understand that politicians can be corrupt. The majority of people understand that police officers can be corrupt. But for some reason, they don't think scientists can be corrupt. They think that the scientist is outside of corruption or the possibility of being influenced. Like, you're telling me that if such an organization where the scientists would dictate fact from fiction would be made of like hardcore Christian scientists, like scientists that also believe in Jesus, wouldn't be different than a similar organization where the scientists would believe in Islam, or another organization where the scientists would be Marxists, or another organization where the scientists would be blatant racists. Like, don't you think that the scientist is still a human being which uses his own mind to filter the science? So that's interesting. Like, how would they be even held accountable? Like, what if? Because I've been told the science is always evolving, right? So, for example, in the United States, from the CDC, Dr. Fauci in the beginning was against masks, right? I said on my channel, like, you should mask up. You should, you know, like, take necessary precautions, some hand sanitizer, you know, it doesn't hurt. I said this, like, in the very early stages when you even had, like, Democrats more busy with impeachment rather than focusing on the healthish, the sanitation. So you have the scientists which understand that the science is evolving, right? So like, do you want the betters to make decisions for the people? Do you want them to have this much power? I'll tell you this. When I was a kid, my parents told, because back then it was the Soviet Union, which spanned its tentacles across Eastern Europe. And over here, all of the scientists, literally every single one, agreed that the communist system is the best system on Earth. And they had scientific consensus on that, because the moment the scientist would have said, no, he disagrees, that scientist would have been fired, and immediately you would have scientific consensus. Do you know what else the Soviets did, by the way, speaking of the science and health, because this actually overlaps a little bit? If you were a problematic person, but one of high renown, so for example, a journalist or someone that maybe, you know, word of you reached outside of the country, and you did something really bad and the system wanted to get rid of you, they would have you committed to a mental asylum. So it was the idea that a psychiatrist, like there was actually two types of psychiatries now. It was punitive psychiatry, like all the doctors there knew what they were doing. It's like, these are for the dissidents, for the political dissidents. And then you have like the normal psychiatry for people with actual mental illnesses and whatnot. So they would take people and put them into the punitive psychiatry. They would keep them on drugs and tie them to their bed, and they would never get out. And of course, like, if you believed in the writings, like let's say a problematic individual against the system, it's like, well, he's against he's pushing like anti-communist writings. You're like, oh my God, you're reading that. Like, you be very careful, because you might get some of his madness sticking on you. So that's how the communists use science. Very interesting. I recommend the amazing Atheist to read a little bit on Lysenkoism, or how the Chernobyl event happened with the government holding state secrets and whatnot. Yeah. But hey, you know, like, yeah, the scientist. You know, here's the thing. You get, and I said this before, like, science is the application of the scientific theory. And the scientific theory can tell you that urine is a good electrical conductor. Whether or not you should take a piss on an electric fence is a matter of public opinion. Yeah, that's something that the politicians get to discuss and people get to vote on it. That is not a matter of the science anymore. But yeah, so what I find absolutely funny and fascinating is that the Amazing Atheist is a YouTuber, right? And he said in response to Mr. Dapperton, it's like, no, see, he was talking back then about movies and art. Now he's talking about the government. All right. Doesn't really matter because on social media, on YouTube, you have the terms of service. And even if you follow all the terms of service, like you're like the amazing atheist. You're a good boy. You know, you follow the terms of service to a T. You notice that YouTube is going to suppress your channel in favor of authoritative sources. So TJ's video about his little ministry of truth is not going to be heard by many people because it's going to be pushed down the algorithm. And who are the authoritative sources? Well, Vox, CNN, Fox News, corporations. They're the authoritative sources. They're now the ones that when you search for something relevant, you're going to find on top of the search videos. You can even test this out with the Amazing Atheist. Like type some of his titles in the search engine and see how down below they are. Even if you type the exact title, most of the time the first search results are going to be from the corporates, from the corporate press, because apparently, right, they're the authoritative sources. So I find it absolutely hilarious that a compatriot of mine, a colleague, a co-worker like the Amazing Atheist, doing the exact same job that I do, speaking in front of a microphone, is advocating for more of that. But now at the governmental level. Rest assured, TJ, the government really doesn't need to go that far. They don't need to do it. You know, like when you persecute people for things they say, it doesn't really look good in front of the cameras. It looks kind of bad. You know, like political prisoners, that doesn't look good. You know what looks good? Getting them fired. Looks great. Making sure that they don't have bank accounts. Looks good. You know why? It's a private company doing it. I mean, sure, sometimes the government might nudge, wink, wink at the private company, but overall, it's legit. Okay, it's legit. So you don't need your system. You don't need your system. You're going to get like a more of a Chinese credit score type of thing in the West, where it's going to become to the point where if you don't think that the withdrawal from Afghanistan is the best shit ever and the way it was done was perfect to a T, if you don't think that, then good luck trying to travel. Good luck trying to have a bank account. And you know, like a lot of people just can't fathom this. It's like, no, this would never happen in the United States. Never. It's like, why? Do you think the people in the US are superhuman or something? Is it something in the soil or the water that allows the people in the US not to be capable of the same things that other nations have done in the past or are doing today? For example, in China, if you point out any negative thing in the history of the nation, they consider that to be nihilistic history. And what they do is exactly what I've said. You're going to have a hard time finding a job. You're going to have a hard time making a loan from the banks. And you're going to have a very hard time sending your kid to a good school. Because you're a bad person. You're a bad man. You're spreading misinformation. Nihilistic history. How horrible. So I guess that is my response to the Amazing Atheist. I guess like power corrupts. And what you want to create would give... Well, it's not only unconstitutional, but it gives like so much power into the hands of a few people that they're definitely going to abuse it. In fact, they would be moronic not to abuse it. I would abuse it. If you put me there, I would abuse that power. I would literally go on to like politicians, like, how much do you pay me so I can interpret the science the right way? Unbelievable. I just don't understand how Americans are so blind to dictatorships that they just don't see it. It's like, no, it would never happen here. All right. By the way, crying fire in a crowded theater. Do you know where that came from? America. It was during World War I, where any criticism against the government or the war effort was banned by the censorship brigade that the Amazing Atheist was suggesting. Kind of funny, because there actually was fire in a theater. Yeah, Americans were dying back then, but it legitimately was a fire, but, you know, experts say, like, look at fact checkers, learn how misinformation, blah, blah, blah. I don't think I need to go any further, but I will say this, though. It's exactly how I predicted it would happen. Once social media starts censoring and people live their life with censorship, they won't see censorship as a bad thing. And then they would advocate for politicians to do censorship. That's the next step. It's inevitable. Because everyone sees it, it's like it's happening, and then they'll be like, oh, why shouldn't it happen against the people that I disagree with? Why shouldn't it happen against those people? It will never be used against me. You know, I'm pretty sure, like, TJ already thinks that just because he's advocating for that, he might be at the desk with the scientists discussing what is truth and what isn't. No, like, other people are going to discuss on your behalf what is truth and what isn't, and I don't think you're going to like it very much. Take it from a person that actually lived in a country where the truth was a matter of state and party. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.